Can-do nuclear reactors. What are they and how do they work? Can-do stands for Canada Deuterium Uranium because they use unenriched uranium and deuterium oxide as a moderator to generate electricity. Can-do reactors, however, can also use enriched elements such as uranium and thorium with some modification, or even radioisotopes from items such as decommissioned nuclear bombs, as a source of fuel and can refuel while still running at full power. Can-do reactors are much more cost efficient to run compared to other nuclear reactors because unenriched uranium is a lot cheaper than otherwise. In addition to this, can-do reactors are more efficient in comparison to average nuclear reactors in that they are able to be inspected and fixed while under full operation. Can-do reactors use uranium-235, uranium-238, or plutonium-239 as their fuel sources, while using heavy water as a moderator in comparison to other nuclear reactors which use expensive graphite as a moderator.
Now, let's talk about how can-do nuclear reactors work. Firstly, pellets filled with uranium-235 are assembled into a fuel rod, which is then placed into the calandria or reaction chamber of the reactor. From there, atoms of uranium-235 are hit with neutrons within the chamber, and as a result of this, the uranium-235 isotope releases further neutrons as well as an immense amount of energy in the form of heat. As previously mentioned, heavy water is used as a moderator in the process of generating electricity in can-do nuclear reactors. Heavy water itself is water that contains deuterium, which is used to slow down the neutrons in the reaction chamber, as before this happens, the neutrons are traveling at immensely high speeds, speeds at which they cannot be used to continue the reaction. As previously mentioned, the reaction generates an immense amount of heat. This heat heats the heavy water, which is then used to heat up normal water. This reaction in turn generates steam and turns turbines which generate electricity. With all nuclear reactors, the risk of radiation is present, and there are precautions in place to protect those that work within the facility, as well as the community around the facility. Within each can-do reactor facility, there are huge pools of water, in which the fuel rods, which are extremely radioactive, are placed. They are also very carefully maintained by professionals. This ensures that they do not pose a risk to the public and the environment, as they are very carefully placed and maintained. As for the workers within the facility itself, the can-do reactor itself is surrounded by a thick layer of concrete and lead, so that the workers can remain protected from radioactivity in the form of alpha, beta, and gamma rays.
All nuclear reactors produce radioactive waste which needs to be disposed of properly, otherwise it can pose a radioactivity hazard. In our current methods, when radioactive waste is first disposed, it is placed in a temporary waste disposal site in steel concrete tanks and filled with cold heavy water as a moderator. They will remain at that site for about 8 to 10 years and then be moved into a dry silo container for around 50 more years. No surefire method has been determined yet as to a long-term proper nuclear waste disposal method, other than a geologic repository. Scientists are debating where the best site in Canada is, where the radioactive waste can be moved and remain safe deep underground in a stable rock surface. A potential problem, though, with uranium and thorium waste is that it will remain radioactive and chemically toxic far longer than known history, and will most definitely outlast the container it is stored in. With this in mind, another idea has come up, to reuse the nuclear waste. Many isotopes of uranium can be turned into fissile plutonium, and we are also looking into using all long-living actinides in nuclear reactors. This could soon mean that mining for uranium and plutonium could become obsolete. This also causes the leftover waste's life expectancy to be reduced to only a few hundred years.
Created using Powtoon.